So I spent a full month with the iPhone 13 Pro Max as my daily driver, or as Apple calls it, the most pro iPhone ever. I didn't know I could make a career as a professional iPhoner, Apple. Before I go on with that, let me just say a quick thank you to OneAudio for sponsoring this video. Fantastic wireless headphones at super low prices. Stick around to hear more about them later. So what exactly is pro about the iPhone 13 Pro and Max? The lightning port at the bottom? Well, my MFI audio interface stopped working with it. Again, it still works fine when I connect it to the USB-C of the iPad Pro though, so it's not for every pro out there. No, the Pro iPhones are pro because of their cameras. They support Dolby Vision HDR and Apple ProRes Video, which is a codec that pros really do use. Also, I've said pro so many times by now that the word is kinda losing its meaning. Pro. See what I mean? Okay, enough fun. How is it actually like to live with the iPhone 13 Pro Max? Well, let's start by saying that that's a chunky boy. Like, I like big smartphones, but this fellow, with its flat rectangular shape, kind of fills your palm fully and insists on jabbing out. It's both hard but also extremely satisfying to handle, because the stainless steel frame, the sturdy build and the heaviness, it all makes it feel like a top-tier device. Just be aware that you will want a case on this phone. I usually prefer not to use cases, but with the iPhone 13 Pro Max I would slap one on whenever I am leaving the house, just because I feel like I might drop it on the pavement while pulling it out of my pocket. All of that heft is also a good thing, because it allows more room for a bigger battery and the bigger camera system here. More on that later, but spoiler alert, the battery on this thing is really good. The screen on the front is fantastic. It's a 6.7-inch OLED panel, which we've seen before on iPhones, yeah. You know, great colors, super high max brightness, and a slight yellow tint, which is an acquired taste. But we finally get ProMotion, which means it supports refresh rates up to 120 Hz. Does this matter? Kinda, yeah, especially in 2021. A high refresh rate makes the animations much smoother and the phone feels more responsive. It's the kind of feature you can live without, but once you get to try it, it's kinda hard to go back. Like, even now, if I pick up an iPhone 12 Pro Max, which is, you know, basically the same, it just feels sluggish. A great display goes hand in hand with the best-in-class speakers of this thing. You know, the iPhone has the stereo speaker setup where the bottom half pushes out slightly more bassier, midier, meatier tones, and the earpiece doubles as a second speaker, which is a bit thinner, but combined they make up for a really well-balanced sound. Like, no joke, I spent some days working on my laptop with the iPhone 13 Pro Max on the desk next to me, just blasting my Apple Music playlist. No need for a Bluetooth speaker or earphones. Sure, it's still somewhat limited by its size. I am not going to say it completely replaces a hi-fi, but it just sounds good enough. Good enough to share a new song with a friend, good enough to catch up on your YouTube playlist, or good enough to just set it on the table and play some background music. And if the speakers are not enough for you, pick up a set of wireless headphones from our sponsor. Today's sponsor, OneAudio, offers super affordable headphones that honestly sound way better than they should at this price point. Here, this is the OneAudio A30, which is like 60 bucks. It offers music over Bluetooth or wired, and it has active noise cancellation. And these are the OneAudio A70. Now, these are marketed more towards DJs and musicians. They come with a special 6.3mm jack cable in the box, but you can also use them wirelessly. Like, both of these models are light, foldable, they have soft cushions, and they sound very decent. They even come with their own carry bags. I definitely did not expect that sound on wireless headphones that cost way below 100 bucks. Links are in the description, check them out, tell them who sent you. Thanks to OneAudio for sponsoring this video. There is one word that probably defines the iPhone experience and the reason why many people gravitate towards it for so many years. And that word is consistency. When we talk about the battery life, the camera, or the performance of an iPhone, you kind of always know what to expect. Sure, to some tech maniacs out there, this does get a bit boring, but it's something that consumers do value. So I briefly mentioned the battery life before, and yeah, it's fantastic. It's much better than I ever would have expected. You know how Apple usually aims for that 1-day battery life? Well, scratch that, the iPhone 13 Pro Max is a 2-day phone. Like, it's crazy, doing all of the things I mentioned before, keeping it on my table to stream music, watching YouTube clips, keeping up with work chats. It gave me 48 hours of time on a single charge. No issue. Obviously, as you can see from the screen recording, I did not try to push my screen on time like to the maximum, but it's kind of the regular usage of a person who goes through their day, right? But even our battery tests showed that you would have a hard time if you tried to drain the iPhone 13 Pro Max in a single day. That's 10 hours of YouTube streaming, 10 hours of gaming, or a total of 18 hours of web browsing. It's insane. Then, when we talk about performance, consistency comes up again. Apple's mobile chips are just the fastest out there, and each year the new iPhone has the most powerful processor on any smartphone of that year. Well, the Apple A15 Bionic in the iPhone 13 Pro Max is no joke. Now, tech fans sometimes argue that Apple's software does not make full use of that power since there are no fancy features like split-screen multitasking or floating windows or other productivity-oriented ideas. But all of that power does get used a lot across the iOS ecosystem. Best-in-class mobile gaming, super fast picture video editing either on the stock apps or the many cool apps on the App Store, and even some music creation apps that may or may not exist on Android. Also, the power of the Apple A processors kind of gives Apple that headroom to work with, which is why we see iPhones get updated for 4, 5, 6 years and not lose much of their productivity. On to the third consistency, the camera. Now this year the iPhone Pro cameras are the same camera system on both the regular Pro model and the Pro Max. It has a bigger main sensor, bigger main lens, a longer 3x telephoto zoom lens, and the ultra-wide camera is capable of taking macro shots. This is hands down one of the best, if not the best, camera on a smartphone right now. Like, at any point of my day, be it sunset, sunrise, or if I am just walking near an interesting thing, whenever I would think to myself, hey, these colors are really beautiful, I just pulled out the iPhone 13 Pro Max, snap, and I've got these colors on my screen. Really fast, easy to use, consistent camera. And that's what we all value, right? But it doesn't end here. You know how when we compare smartphone cameras, we will always nitpick and go, well, this one is warmer, this one is colder, this one has more contrast. Well, Apple this year decided to be all of those things. The new photographic styles setting allows you to fine-tune the post-processing of the camera, so it can go warmer, it can go colder, or it can get starker contrast. Personally, I liked to set warmth to +25 and tone to -25. This is a subtle touch that just enhances the punchiness of a photo without going too far away from the iPhone camera experience that I am used to. The portrait mode is finally good, I would say. I did love using it when it was first introduced with the iPhone 7 Plus, but it always had bugs with edge detection where the subject wasn't cut out right and something looked too fake or too broken. At some point I got tired of it. Well, with the iPhone 13 Pro Max I enjoy using portrait mode again. No doubt the LiDAR sensor is doing some magic to help the main camera, but that fake bokeh looks super creamy and the subject edges are so accurately cut, it's just kind of unbelievable. There are still some bugs sometimes, like if you're trying to shoot black hair against black elements in the background, but overall it's very usable and still among the best virtual portrait modes out there. Now, I did play around with the cinematic mode a bit, but I don't know, it still feels like a toy. It kind of feels like what portrait mode was a few years ago. Cool idea that you shouldn't take seriously just yet. But for regular video, you've probably heard it before, iPhone is king, especially with the ProRes codec on the device right now. Fair warning, if you buy the lowest storage iPhone Pro, that's the 128GB, you can only shoot in ProRes at up to 1080p. You need to upgrade the storage to shoot 4K in ProRes. But no matter which iPhone 13 you have, you can still shoot 4K clips in the regular camera format, so no limitations there. So, did I enjoy my time with the iPhone 13 Pro Max, and do I think it's worth the money? That's always a tricky question, isn't it? I do believe that if you can afford the steep price, you will feel happy with an iPhone 13 Pro Max. It has a fantastic battery life, fantastic performance, fantastic camera, and it will keep going for years to come. So if you're a modern smartphone person that wants peak performance in every aspect, sure, yeah. That said, if you don't want to spend $1,100, starting at $1,100, for a smartphone, I feel like the regular iPhone 13 can still work for you. It has a slightly downgraded camera, but it's still pretty good. Unfortunately, no telephoto camera for those really cool, honest portraits. And yeah, the iPhone 13 and the 13 mini are still stuck with 60Hz screens, which is not great in 2021. They could have had 90Hz, maybe, probably, Apple. And if you're not strictly looking for an iPhone, there are many options out there, like the OnePlus 9 is pretty dependable, or the new Pixel 6, which is kind of affordable and it looks very interesting to say the least. And both of them have big screens with at least 90Hz refresh rate and more ergonomic bodies that are easier to hold. So think about it. Stick around for a review of the Pixel 6 and the Pixel 6 Pro, which should be coming soon. Hit that bell icon to make sure you don't miss them, and I'll see you when I see you. Bye!